We might not notice, but tremendous technology and mind-boggling science constantly surround us in the products we use every day. Behind their practical use lurk hidden histories, dramatic discoveries, and awesome experiments. They are wicked inventions. Coming up, smoked salmon. We reveal the cure that creates the perfect salmon taste. Carbonated drinks. The science behind the bubbles lurking inside our favourite fizz. Perfume. What is perfume's explosive secret? We follow our noses and find out the bizarre ingredients contained within their seductive scents. We reveal the surprising science and amazing manufacture behind these wicked inventions. Smoked salmon is now served across the world, but do you know the important history behind such a popular food?
So the history and the development of smoked salmon really starts with the basic human need to preserve and prolong the shelf life of food.
To preserve the salmon, it undergoes smoking at high temperatures in order to keep it edible for an extended period of time.
But there's also a spiritual reason for smoking. For the Native Americans, smoke was very much linked to the Great Spirit, so they would smoke fish in a way which wouldn't displease the Great Spirit and send him away. It was all kind of done very ceremoniously. In Europe, the first smoked salmon factories or production was actually found in Eastern Europe, so places like Poland and the Baltic regions were curing, smoking salmon from about the 9th century and exporting it around the world.
From the 16th century, recipes have been found with traces of smoked salmon in them. Examples of this were smoked salmon salads, which were fairly common in the United Kingdom, as well as the rest of Western Europe for many years.
The Western European history of smoking fish and curing and preserving fish really starts with that immigration of the Jewish communities really of Eastern Europe coming to Western Europe to places like London and the States. And originally they were bringing fish from the Baltic regions, but what they found was that actually Scottish salmon was at the time cheaper, but also fresher, kind of cleaner tasting fish. It created something called a London cure, and the London cure was just smoking fish very, very delicately, so you could still retain the flavour and the texture of the fish, but still get that nice smoked flavour.
During World War II, a method of smoking was developed in order to further preserve salted fish, so it could travel longer. This kind of smoked salmon was called lox, a method that some still use and remember today. Today it is an integral part of our diet and is considered a luxury item because salmon nearly became extinct due to overfishing and pollution. Once this stage was reached, prices went up, and in order to protect the species, laws were put in place that regulated the fishing of salmon. But how does salmon get from water to a luxurious option on restaurant menus today? H. Foreman & Son are a company based in London, England.
H. Foreman & Son was founded back in 1905 by my great-grandfather. We are the oldest producers of smoked salmon in the world, and we've always been based here in the East End of London.
Coming up, we'll show you just how and why your smoked salmon never has any bones in it. But first, the starting point for a lovely delicate slice of smoked salmon begins with a delivery of really fresh fish.
In order to start producing smoked salmon, you have to have the very best quality fresh salmon. So we bring all our salmon down from Scotland on a daily basis. The most important thing is freshness, and all the fish is with us within a maximum of 2 days of coming out of water.
The fish is then filleted by hand. This involves skillfully separating the useful portions of the fish from the unwanted parts using a knife.
We chop off the head, the tail, we split the fish in half and remove the backbone. We fillet it entirely by hand. That's important because most salmon, I would say about 90% of salmon nowadays, is filleted by machine, and you get a far better quality fillet when it's all done by hand, and you can work with the fish when they're a lot fresher.
The first part of the transformation process is to cure the salmon fillets.
So we cure the salmon. in other words preserve it, by laying it on racks and sprinkling it with salt. And we leave it in salt for 24 hours, and if you weigh those salmon fillets before they're salted and you weigh them again after they're salted, they weigh 10% less, and that's how you preserve the taste of the salmon.
After the salmon has been cured, it is then transferred to the kiln, which further reduces the water content of the fish. In the kiln, the salmon fillets are hung, air-dried and smoked for another 24 hours.
During that process, it loses another 10% of its weight, and most of the time it's just air drying, and the smoke essentially provides an antibacterial seal that sort of coats the fish to stop it deteriorating. Smoked salmon is not meant to taste of smoke. The smoke is there to protect the fish, not to flavour the fish. You know, you have this wonderful intense salmon flavour and you want to protect it against the elements, so that's what the smoke is there for.
After smoking, the salmon is then prepared further by hand.
Once the salmon is out of the kilns, the first job is to remove that outer crusty layer. It's called the pellicle, that smoky coating. So we remove that, and what is inside is this beautiful salmon flavour.
Have you ever wondered how and why there are no bones in your smoked salmon? That's because the bones are painstakingly removed by hand, using tweezers.
We not only have to trim off the bones, the rib cage and the fins either side of the fish, but we have to remove all the little pin bones that are in the fillet. And we do that by hand with tweezers or pliers, and we literally pluck out 32 little bones from each fillet.
Once all of the bones are removed, the salmon is sliced. This is a very specialised skill to get right, and here at H. Foreman & Son, every slice is cut by hand to maintain absolute consistency and quality.
There are two ways of slicing salmon. There's the traditional way, which is the long slice from the head all the way down to the tail, and there's the second method, which is called a D-cut, where you slice the fish at an angle through the fish, and it's called a D-cut because each slice comes out like the shape of a capital letter D.
After slicing comes packaging. The salmon is packaged differently depending on its destination.
For retail, we tend to vacuum pack the product because that will help retain the shelf life. For restaurants and hotels, because we're delivering to them 6 days a week, and literally the same day the salmon comes out of the kilns, they don't need to have the product vacuum packed. So we just send it straight out to them freshly every day. The retail packets go in our beautiful sleeves, where there's a little bit of an explanation as to the London cure, so that people understand exactly what they're getting.
The salmon is then shipped to restaurants and retailers, all within 4 days of it coming out of the water.
My team arrive at 3:30 every morning. They take the salmon out of the kilns and it's delivered to the customer on that very same day. And freshness is the absolutely most important thing when it comes to fish. The challenge is just making sure it's absolutely consistent every day. You're dealing with a natural product, and we're supplying many of the top chefs in the world, and they are very demanding customers. And to make sure that you keep them satisfied day after day, week after week, for over 100 years, that's a challenge, but we seem to get it right.
A traditional product unchanged for over 100 years and revered all around the world, which is why we think it is a truly remarkable, wicked invention. Most people love the bubbles and sweet taste of a fizzy drink. Known as soda, cola or fizzy pop, carbonated drinks, to give them their proper name, have become one of the most popular drinks in the world, with one popular cola brand selling an estimated 1.7 billion servings worldwide every day. So, where did the fizzy drink come from?
Carbonated drinks were originally designed as a health tonic because they come from natural springs. They contain natural salts. That wasn't necessarily understood, but people understood that carbonation came from springs. There was something dissolved in the water tasted good, people liked it, it had some health benefits, so carbonated drinks started purely as a health benefit. Then what happened was, instead of being prescribed, people started to want to be able to take them home with them and be able to have them at home as a luxury item, as a general health item, and then at that point people realised this is actually quite a commercial idea. Let's make it, we'll have flavours of different herbs, we'll have flavours of different infusions, and we can add it to drinks and it becomes quite tasty.
In 1767, Englishman Joseph Priestley started the carbonated drinks craze when he worked out how to infuse water with carbon dioxide. The resultant drink tasted rather pleasant, and soda water was born. Manufacturers of syrupy, non-alcoholic beverages quickly saw the commercial potential of adding gas to their drinks, and a huge new industry was created. But how had the addition of carbon dioxide improved these drinks?
What this creates in the drink is it actually creates carbonic acid, which is a slightly mildly acidic. It offsets the sweetness of a lot of drinks. The vast amounts of sugar that are contained within them need the carbonation to offset, because the carbonation actually produces an acidic taste. So the combination of sweet and a bit of sour from the acid is actually quite a flavour that the humans like, and it's great to drink, and a lot of people sell it and they can make a large profit on it.
By the mid-19th century, carbonated drinks had captured the public's taste buds. At the Great Exhibition in London in 1851, Schweppes managed to sell over 1 million bottles of their assorted carbonated drinks, but there was a problem: how to keep the pop in the bottle. Carbonated drinks bottles are under a lot of pressure from the gas, and the 1,500 different US patents for bottle top solutions filed in the early days of the fizzy drink bottling industry suggested that a solution was hard to find. Step forward US inventor William Painter and his crown cap, invented in 1892. This ingenious, simple solution was a piece of metal that caps around the bottle's edge, tightly covering the bottle opening and holding the pressure in. Easy to open, the sound of a crown cap being flicked off a bottle has become familiar to us for over 100 years. So the fizz could be kept inside a bottle, but how were the bubbles created in the first place?
A fizzy drink is created by dissolving as much carbon dioxide as possible in the drink. Originally this was done by cooling the water and allowing carbon dioxide to bubble through it. Nowadays it's done by cooling the water to almost freezing but not quite, and pouring lots of carbon dioxide as a stream of gas through the system under high pressure. The high pressure allows carbon dioxide to dissolve more rapidly in the water and to dissolve the full amount that can be possibly dissolved at a cold temperature. Once this cold liquid has been created with all the carbon dioxide dissolved in it, it will then be transferred to a bottle and capped.
With the carbon dioxide dissolved in the drink, the fizzy beverage does not look, fizzy when it is stored on a shelf. So, what is the scientific magic that makes a flat-looking liquid turn into a frothy, bubbly drink once we unscrew the bottle, crack off the cap, or pull the can's ring?
When a drink is opened, what happens is the carbon dioxide that has been dissolved under high pressure has an escape mechanism, and this starts to form by small amounts of carbonic acid forming carbon dioxide and then becoming bubbles and coalescing into bubbles that we see and slowly coming out. This is obviously why if you want to use a carbonated drink later on, you have to screw the cap on it in order to stop the carbonation from coming out and it being used at a later point without tasting what we call flat, which is basically without any carbon dioxide in the drink.
All those bubbles in soft drinks mean they have a fun reputation and are perceived as the perfect way to pep up a party or make that thirst-quenching drink a little more magical. But there is a downside. With their enjoyable taste and fun fizz, sugary soft drinks are extremely attractive to consumers, but it is alleged that drinking too much soda can lead to health problems. It is all down to the vast quantities we guzzle, with Americans estimated to ingest 1.7 million tonnes or 4.9 kilos per person of sugar each year from cola alone.
It has been shown in demonstrations that the acid and the acidic content of carbonated drinks, as well as fruit juices, can eat away at the enamel on teeth. The other difficulty is there's a very high sugar content in them, which your body interprets as a high source of energy, a large fuel source, but also becomes very addictive, which means that we can be addicted to needing the sugar content in there as a means of getting an energy boost and being reliant upon that in order to stay awake or stay alert, which can lead to cycles of insulin in the body and cycles of sugar in the body, which is actually quite damaging to the body and can lead to diabetes.
Even with these health warnings, our addiction to soda seems to be unstoppable. But if drunk in moderation, we can still all enjoy its sweet fizz. So, the carbonated drink is one wicked invention that seems to be here to stay. Can we find out how much sugar is in a soft drink without looking at the can? we're going to need a pan, a can of soda, a hob, and some scales. We take the empty pan and weigh it. It's 426 grams. We pour the soda into the pan and boil the mixture. The liquid evaporates and we are left with a sticky sludge, or what is also known as sugar. Once the pan is cooled, place it onto the scales. 450 grams. We need to take away the original weight of the empty pan, which leaves us with a grand total of 24 grams of sugar. And what does that much sugar actually look like? Well, a teaspoon contains 4 grams of sugar. So our can of soda has actually got 6 teaspoons of sugar in it, which, if we measure it into a glass, actually looks like this. With so many health problems linked to the consumption of too much sugar, our drink is not looking so appetizing now. It all comes down to the taste the manufacturers are trying to achieve. But carbonated water is acidic and sour tasting, and the same goes for the caffeine that is often contained in soft drinks. To balance that out, you need a great deal of sugar to create the sweet taste craved by so many. Can we find out how much sugar is in a soft drink without looking at the can? Yes, we can. Wicked challenge smashed. Perfume may be regarded as an everyday necessity, but we are going to find out its long history and see why Queen Elizabeth I of England was such a big fan. The word perfume comes from the Latin perfumus, which, literally translated, means through smoke. Its use can be backdated many thousands of years, and to many cultures, from the incense of East Asia, which was refined by the Romans, the Persians and Arabs into the perfume we know today. Islamic cultures such as the Arabs and Persians had access to a wide array of spices, resins, precious woods and herbs, and it was they who introduced musk, rose, jasmine and amber, key ingredients used in perfume. Perfume wasn't properly used in Europe until the 14th century. The first modern perfume made of scented oils blended in an alcohol solution was made in 1370 at the command of Queen Elizabeth of Hungary. France quickly became the centre of perfumery and cosmetic production, largely down to the growing climate in the south of France. In the Renaissance period, nobility and royals used perfume to mask body odours, whilst Queen Elizabeth I of England demanded that all public places were scented, as she couldn't tolerate bad smells.
The medieval doctors actually felt that it was a bad thing to have a bath and it would make you more susceptible to disease, and they discouraged it. So even royalty and nobility would perhaps only have a bath twice in their lifetimes, at birth and at marriage. The smell and the stench of it would have been awful. But actually in reality they were all used to it. However, they didn't have any concept of disease and how it was contagious at the time either. They did still appreciate that some smells are nice and some smells are bad, because after all they did wear little pockets of herbs and fragrant flowers and started using perfumes. There was a perception about what smelled nice.
Today, the perfume industry is worth over $40 billion a year and is still growing significantly year on year as new Eastern markets emerge. The Cotswold Perfumery was established in 1966 and have been making perfume for over 50 years.
My name is John Stephen. I am the owner of the Cotswold Perfumery in Bourton on the Water, and we manufacture and retail fine fragrances for the niche market. Creating fragrances is very specialised. More people have walked on the moon than there are creative perfumers in this country, so it's quite a rare skill, and it's very enjoyable, and I feel very privileged to be in the industry.
Coming up, we'll find out an explosive secret about perfume. But first, the base ingredients of perfume are comprised from essential oils. These are oils that have been derived from aromatic plants, fruits and flowers. The oils are diluted with ethanol. Before a new perfume is formulated, the raw materials have to be checked for purity to ensure that they have not been adulterated or tainted in any way. Some raw materials can cost up to £20,000 per kilogram, and so the perfume maker has to be ensured they are genuine and of top quality. The materials are checked using gas chromatography. The substance is vaporized in the machine and then passes through a liquid. The different component parts of the substance pass through the liquid at different rates. These are detected by the machine as they pass through and are printed on a readout. The perfumier can then see what materials are present in the oil, accurate to 1 nanogram. A new perfume starts with a brief from the customer. They will describe how they want it to smell, who it will be aimed at, and the intended final cost. The perfume maker creates small sample quantities of different formulas to be sent out for approval by the customer. He weighs out different amounts of essential oils using a very sensitive set of lab scales, which are accurate down to 1 milligram. Amongst all this high-tech lab machinery, it's actually the perfume maker's nose that is the most important tool used when formulating a new perfume, and his experience is paramount in knowing what makes good or bad fragrances. The samples are applied to testing cards and the recipe is adjusted as necessary. Once a fragrance is approved by the customer, the perfume can then be put into production. The first step is called compounding. This involves accurately weighing out all of the materials to make a concentrate. The concentrate is diluted with ethanol. It is left to mature, and once the aromas are imparted, the liquid is chilled and filtered to produce a pure, clear, or bright perfume. A sample of the perfume is taken to the lab and tested for density. The final product will be measured to a specific volume in milliliters. Everything in the formulation process is weighed in grams. The perfumery need to know what weight of the perfume will give the required volume. The product is measured out into a known volume and it is weighed with the lab scales. The density of the perfume can then be calculated from differences in weight to the same volume of water. This ensures accuracy when filling the bottles.
Half of the work these days is on the technical side because we have to make all sorts of measurements to make sure that the fragrance conforms to the regulations.
The flash point of the fragrance is measured using a flash point testing machine. The flash point of a substance is the temperature at which it gives off enough vapour to ignite when it comes into contact with the source of ignition. This is essential to know for labelling regulations and for shipping and storing the product. Next, the perfume is put into the customer's bottles. The pump is applied to the bottle using a crimp. Each bottle is batch coded to provide traceability, just in case a problem arises with the product in the future. The bottles are boxed, labelled and cellophane wrapped. In this perfumery, this is all done by hand. The perfumes they create are very niche products for high-end markets in the Middle East and Russia.
Perfumery today is split mainly into two parts. You've got the brand name fragrances that you'll see in your department stores, and you've got the niche market, which is the more specialised fragrances from the smaller companies.
So there you have it, from bottles to bottle. Perfume is very much a wicked invention. So there you have it, a dash through the hidden history, super science and amazing manufacture of products that you use every day but have never realised their amazing backgrounds. Smoked salmon, carbonated drinks and perfume. All wicked inventions.